This is a letter, and I don't remember from whom it came. So I can't remember if it's a man or a woman, experienced or not. This person says, my brother just informed me that he's getting married in May. I immediately asked if I could attend his wedding, and he said yes. Well, good so far. The problem is that my brother is gay and is marrying another man. Well, you would expect that if he was gay, I suppose. It's not a problem for me. I really do want to celebrate his day with him, but my church doesn't agree with same-sex relations. Do you think it is wrong that I want to be with him on this day? I know the rest of the family will not be there, consciously making a moral point, and they will condemn me for being there. Yeah, I've heard this one a great many times. People in your church will tell you that you're condoning, I can just hear the words along with the tone, that you're condoning what they believe to be wrong. And to them, it's wrong. And what they're telling you is wrong when they tell you that you're condoning. You may even believe yourself that it's wrong, that gay marriage is wrong. I really don't care what your position on the subject is. It's none of my business what anybody's position on that subject is. But go to the wedding. Really. You said you want to. You've already said that. That's what you want to do. You're not condoning gay marriage. So if that's a point in your religion, you're not doing that. You're just being with your brother. For example, I don't drink alcohol. My church preaches against it, but I still sit at the dinner table on many occasions with people who are drinking alcohol. This is very much like the situation you're talking about. No kidding. Am I condoning their drinking? In a way, it's almost an insulting question. Condone implies that what they're doing is wrong. And I don't really have any right to judge that their drinking alcohol is wrong. I believe it's wrong for me. I don't get to tell you it's wrong for you. I really don't get to do that. But that aside, the critical implications of condoning, am I condoning their behavior? Absurd. I have friends who are strict vegans, and they sit and eat dinner with me while I chew a piece of muscle from a cow whom they would rather be grazing in their front yard, I suppose. They're not agreeing with me. They're just being with me. Completely separate things. The act and loving the person. Whether my choice is wrong or stupid. Eating meat, for example. And that's what you'll be doing with your brother. Gay marriage, alcohol, vegan, we all get to have our opinion. But the most important thing, I would think, even in your religion, I'm guessing, is that love is the greatest thing. You're putting love above appearing to condemn him. Goodness sakes, do you get credit for condemning other people for not subscribing to your particular religious view? I can't even imagine your religion teaches that. So nobody's beliefs are being condoned or condemned. You're loving your brother, and you're doing a really loving thing. And if I remember, your family is Christian, and I'm just taking a shot here, but I'm guessing Jesus would say to love your brother. Just a shot. New subject. I know a woman who has been practicing real love with her 14-year-old daughter, who had been quite a handful. Drugs, alcohol, boys, defiance, school problems. She had been doing what she read in the parenting book, loving and teaching. She was gentle but firm, with occasional consequences. This was a really big change in the rules to the daughter, and the daughter was resisting, duh. and it became worse. I suggested that she get closer to her daughter. She would tend to, and we do this when we get afraid, we tend to physically distance I asked her, when you talk to her daughter, estimate the inches between you. Sounds kind of mechanical, doesn't it? But no, it's a reflection of our fear. How many inches are between you typically? She said, well, she'd never thought of that. Well, just do it. You have a yardstick, surely. Well, I guess about 3 feet. Ooh. She would feel that distance. She would feel you withdrawing from her. So I suggested that when she talks to her daughter, that she touch her. Sit down on the couch, put her hand on her knee. Come around as she's talking to her and touch her shoulder. Something. She writes to me, when I touch my daughter, she screams that I'm abusing her. It's a 14-year-old kid. She's already got drama perfected. That's pretty good. I'm abusing her, and everybody folds at this expression. I'm violating her boundaries. She's already learned the language of victimhood. This is great. She says she hates me, and if I touch her, she's going to call the police. That one's pretty creative. I've only heard that a couple times. So what do I say to her when she says that if I touch her without permission, I'm violating her boundaries? Because it really sounds pretty good, doesn't it? You know, a child has a right to boundaries and you're violating them. I'm confused, you say, about how to help her differentiate around what is abuse, what boundaries really are, and what healthy touch is. This is a really good question. Your daughter is a clever kid, really clever. She's heard all this language. She's seen it in self-help books. She's read it on the internet. She's heard her friends talk about it. She's seen it in magazines. So what do? You sit down with her, and before you touch her, you tell her that it is your job, your assignment, your responsibility. Now, you're glad to have it, but it's still your job. By law, it's your job. And since I know your family, God assigned you this job to be her parent. And part of that involves healthy touching. When you nursed her, when she was born, were you violating her boundaries then? No. Because she wouldn't have felt like you were, because she was getting what she wants. She's only using this boundary thing now to get what she wants, which is power. And that ain't helping her. She needs healthy touch. In fact, you tell her with this tone of voice, not commanding, not demanding, just very matter-of-fact statement of fact, that you're supposed to touch her, that it's a basic need with every child. When she was younger, you were supposed to bathe her, you were supposed to nurse her, you were supposed to pick her up when she felt it. It's a basic need with every kid. Children die without touch, and it continues throughout life. And you also see it as a privilege. If she had a laceration as a child, would it be abusive? And of course, this would be with your permission as the parent who has custody of the child. Would it be abusive for the attending emergency room physician to touch her? I worked in emergency rooms for years and sewed up many a laceration of a child. Is that abusive? Remember, he's going to inject anesthesia into her wounds. That would be well past violating her personal space, with a needle, and sew her up with sharp needles. Sounds abusive, but it's not. Not at all. It has some of the marks of abuse, but the difference is he's helping her. There's a lesson here. In fact, it's required to touch her. Same with you. This little kid is lacerated all over the place. She's bleeding just all over. Who's going to help her with her wounds but you? And part of that is touching. I worked years ago as an emergency room doc in a little town in Pearsall, Texas. Look it up. What's Pearsall, Texas near? Nothing. Not a thing. And this guy comes in the emergency room. He's been in a fight in a bar. He picked the wrong guy to fight with. The guy pulled a knife and stuck it in his mouth and pulled it out his cheek. And then he stuck it in again and pulled out the other cheek. So you could do an examination of his molars without him opening his mouth. His mouth was just completely flayed. I couldn't get him to hold still. He'd been drinking. Well, he was actually drunk. 3 of his brothers tried to hold him down. No, couldn't do it. He had a right to say no, even though I tried to force him because he was acting like a child, but I cared about him enough to essentially make him let me touch him. Didn't work. Still didn't. I discharged him. I said, well, go home and I hope you like your new smile, which is now the largest in the world. 30 minutes later, this little woman who weighed less than half what he did walked in the emergency room door, and in her left hand was this guy's, the drunk guy's ear. It was attached to his head. She pulled this kid in and threw him down on the emergency room table and said, hold still. It was astonishing. He didn't move. One look at his mother and he didn't move the whole time. Did he need his supposed boundaries violated? Yeah. I violated them according to your daughter's standards. His mother violated him. Why? So he didn't walk around looking like a circus freak for the rest of his life. That's the position your daughter's in. She's crippled. She's wounded all over the place. You are the help. You are the emergency room physician. You are the mother. Be the mother. Don't be afraid. Don't be a peer. Be the mother. Confident, cool, not harsh, just loving and firm. So touch her. You tell her you're going to touch her, and then you reach out and you touch her. And if she goes into the next room, you go into the next room and you touch her again. She needs it. She resisted initially. Yeah, almost everybody does who's having a little internal fit. They do the same thing with horses. Someday, if you feel like it, watch a documentary called Buck. And this is a guy who takes care of horses that have been severely traumatized, who can't be ridden, who serve no function, who aren't happy, who are twitchy, who are nervous, who shy away from people. And he guides them just like I'm telling you. Sometimes he holds a little stick in each hand. He didn't touch the horse with the stick. It's just so the horse can see a guide. And he just gets closer and closer. You think that he was taking care of a baby. And he just guides him with the stick, and the horse is just rearing up and just obviously terrified, eyes just flaring open. And he just moves in and gets closer and closer, touches the horse's nose, and then starts stroking his neck and his back, touching. And then the horse just stands still and gets stroked by this guy. And then the camera pans over to the owner of the horse, and the owner's just bawling. Because the owner knew this horse was in pain, but didn't know what to do about it. So what does Buck do? He just violates the trash out of the horse's boundaries. But he does it firmly and kindly, lovingly. Melts the horse. The horse didn't request it. Neither's your daughter. But she'll take it if you keep doing it. Interesting follow-up to this. This email was from, I read emails in whatever order for video chats. This one was from some time ago. The mother now regularly touches the daughter, and 4 or 5 days ago, something, the mother wrote me and said that just that morning, and it wasn't like a singular event, just that morning, while the mother was in bed, the daughter gets up on her own and crawls into bed with mom and just snuggles with her for 15 minutes. All because the mother followed this. She did it. She played buck to the horse of her daughter. It's sweet. Forgive the pun. It's touching. Couldn't resist. New subject. My husband, John, has a best friend, Jared, who will be visiting him from out of town in a couple of weeks. John has made 2 requests of me, that he gets to spend time with Jared, his friend, alone, and that we have them over for dinner. I guess Jared is bringing his partner. Don't know who his partner is. I accepted both requests as long as I was not expected to cook a big meal. Not my favorite thing to do. John said that he has noticed that in the past, remember, John is the husband of the writer here. John said he's noticed that I don't especially like having his best friend Jared over, and that I didn't know how to say it to him. So John has noticed that the writer here is uncomfortable with his best friend. What I've been afraid to tell John is that he doesn't see it, but he becomes a different person when he's with Jared. That's not uncommon, that we turn into different people with certain other people because we're trying to satisfy their needs. We're trying to make them like us. You continue. He's a different person with Jared. He's louder. He's less thoughtful. He's more self-centered. And I think I would call it being fake. Because I've heard about Jared before from you, I know that John gets to see him fairly infrequently, like 2 or 3 times a year. Some things aren't worth talking about. If your husband is fake with his best friend 2 or 3 times a year, so what? It'd be like having your spouse periodically go out and make a fire and dance around the fire naked in the moonlight. What do you care? It doesn't affect your relationship. It's a rare thing, so I would not address it, that he's fake with his friend, which I believe it's mutual pleasing, and he's an old friend long before real love, so it's very likely that the two got together by pleasing each other, by giving each other the right combination of imitation love, and so he's just continuing doing it. Even though he has grown beyond that with you and other people, he falls back into being a fake person with his friend. So leave it alone. Just understand it, that's all he's doing. Don't address it unless he does distinctly unloving things toward you. And you would point that out anyways. So Jared is just incidental. If he ignores you more while his friend is there for a couple of days or 3 a year, so what? You just go, okay, for this 2 or 3 days, he's going to spend less personal time with me, just like he spends less personal time with you when he's at work. Big deal. Probably the closest thing to a friend John has, so let him have it. You continue. Somehow he really wants to make me happy so he can have fun with Jared. Yeah, because he's feeling guilty because he can see that you don't like it when Jared is over. So he's trying to make you both happy. Having Jared come over just triggers him all over the place. You continue. So I feel a little bit manipulated. Like he'll make sure I have absolutely everything I need. He's super nice to me, so there's nothing I can complain about while he's spending time with Jared. Should I tell him that I feel manipulated? You gotta be kidding. Here's a guy who falls back into people-pleasing when he sees his friend a couple of times a year, and in the process, he's super nice to you. And you're going to mess with that? I don't think so. Just leave it alone and understand it. It affects you very little. And if you understand what's going on these rare occasions, it's nothing. Donna, my sweetheart, just came back from 9 days helping our daughter move from one part of the country to way far away to another part of the country. She's got a husband who's got a new job there, and she's moving in and organizing and unpacking and doing all the stuff you have to do. The new license, the register, hook up anybody who's moved knows that it's just stressful. And she has 3 kids, 7 and under. You think you're tired? Try that. And she went out to help her move and organize and blah, blah, blah. Did I get to spend less time with Donna? Duh. But she wasn't really gone. Did I miss her? Yeah. Was I glad when she came home? Uh-huh. Did I say to her, no. You just can't be away from me. No. Same with your husband. Let it go. Enjoy the fact that he gets to spend time with his friend, fake or not. New subject. From the PCSD book, somebody asked for a summary and made some emphasis about some things that they'd learned. It just kind of struck a chord with me, and I'm going to read it. They put it together, and it somehow resonated with me. One of the greatest contributions to the feeling of being traumatized in PCSD is the violent swinging from hope and raised expectations from the people who are closest to us, because they give us little hints that they care about us, to deep disappointment and a sense of betrayal. And this trauma is guaranteed when we use imitation love. Falling in love is just a dramatic example of a pattern that we see over and over in our lives with our parents, friends, business associates, and more. We fall in love with these people. We fall in love with the new boss. We fall in love with anybody who gives us the imitation love that sort of serves as a substitute temporarily for the real love we don't have. So the cycle goes like this, or the pattern goes like this. We have a lack of unconditional love. We feel emptiness and pain. We are desperate to get rid of the pain. So we look for a relief of emptiness from the emptiness and pain. And we find abundant source of imitation love. Just like in the situation we just talked about, John, the husband of the writer, found an abundant source of imitation love with his friend Jared. He's in love with his friend Jared. He wouldn't see it that way, but that's what it is, in love. Then he experiences the illusion of happiness from imitation love. So do we all. We develop very high expectations that the happiness will continue. And here's where the slide starts. We have an addictive attachment to the imitation love that provides this happiness. Remember, John goes out of his way more than usual to be super nice to his wife so he can have his friend come and give him a dose of imitation love. It's like being nice to your partner so that she'll entertain the drug dealer. But then imitation love always fades. I just call it imitation love fatigue, just like every addiction. And the trading becomes inequitable. That's not the case with John and Jared because they only see each other like twice a year. So they have their little celebration. It wears off a little bit, but then, what is it? Separation makes the heart grow fonder. What is it? Absence makes the heart. Same with your husband, the husband of the lady who wrote the letter before this. And then he falls in love again when his friend comes over. But it doesn't last in long-term relationships. Now we feel disappointed, angry, and betrayed. And then the emptiness and pain that we originally felt is worse. Then we need more imitation love. See the cycle? Doomed. Without the contribution of unconditional love and genuine happiness, we're just doomed and blind to it because we keep repeating it. Remember that PCSD, post-childhood stress disorder, is caused by the lack of unconditional love. And the pattern we just talked about, the expectations and the disappointment and the fatigue, perpetuates and magnifies the wounds that we originally received in childhood. We hate disappointment. We hate it when our expectations and hopes are dashed against the rocks. Research has proven that we'd rather be told, for example, that we'll be waiting in line for 20 minutes than to be told that the wait will be 10 minutes, but then after 10 minutes to be told that it will be another 10 minutes. Both of them are 20 minutes, but one involves expectations and disappointment. We hate it. So it's not the wait. It's the dashing of our hopes. We'd rather be told, studies prove again, there will be no raise this year than to be told that there will be a raise, followed by an announcement that, oh, no, the promise of a raise was a mistake. We don't like to be disappointed at all. Look at the face of a child. Would you like some ice cream? Oh, well, we don't have any. Whoa, don't do that. With imitation love, the initial feelings are so positive. They're just so exciting that we're certain we found genuine happiness, like the promised raise. Imitation love also implies a promise of continued happiness. If it worked now, why wouldn't it work tomorrow? But then the inevitable evaporation of those feelings occurs, and the disappointment is devastating. When these feelings, the best we've ever had, turn out to be a lie, our hopes are crushed. I'm describing 99% of marriages right now. And well, actually, most relationships. Our expectations get huge. We're disappointed. Way worse to lose a friendship than to not have had one. No kidding. And hope is just one feeling we can't lose. Can't. We must have hope. You take hope from somebody, there's nothing left. You can scare them, you can hurt them, take hope away. Now it's just hopeless and hopeless. Without it, we sit on the floors of our cages, referring to an experiment done with dogs, and we just whimper and get electrocuted over and over from the dog experiment, which I'm not going to go into. So why is imitation love so bad? Because it's more than just the simple absence of real love. It's the creation of the hopes and expectations that are crushed, leaving us in a state of woundedness worse than ever. This explains so much of our behavior. It recreates, and just as importantly, confirms the wounds that originally destroyed our safety and happiness. This failure of imitation love is what causes PCSD and also ensures that it will continue. A woman called me the other day and she was describing how her 3-year-old was teething or had a bit of a cold or whatever for 2 or 3 weeks. And she was getting to the point where it was like she was looking for a window to throw this kid out of. And she said, I don't understand it. I really want to throw this kid out of the window. She wasn't kidding. Now, she wouldn't have done it, but she said, my reaction is so out of proportion to what's actually happening. Like, he cries at night because he's uncomfortable, or he's testy when you feed him, or because he's teething and has a cold and all that stuff because he'd previously been doing well. She said, I don't understand my reaction. Well, she nailed it when she said, my reaction was out of proportion to what he was doing. What does that mean? Every time. Listen. Triggered. That means the event in the present reminds her of some series or pattern of painful events in the past. And I said, so when you first had this little baby, what did you think it was going to be like? Well, I said, I'll help you. Everybody does that. With a newborn, you're nursing this little baby. You're feeling absolutely indispensable in the world. And the baby, when the baby's nursing, for example, is usually pretty cooperative. He's getting everything he wants. And you're just going, it's just going to be like this forever. And here's this kid who you didn't mean to, but had expectations of. Now he's just behaving like a little monster. Let me think, is there anybody in your life who's done the same thing? Where you had the promise, the expectations that you would get all the love and happiness you wanted from this person, and then they repeatedly and unexpectedly and unpredictably just violently disappointed you. She just burst into tears. Her mother. Every time her 3-year-old behaved badly, she was reminded about the pain from her mother, the loss of imitation love from her. Most of us get triggered all day long, which is the essence of PCSD or PTSD. It's so understandable that this happens, that we fall in love for imitation love. It feels good, praise, falling in love, power, money, so good that it's addictive. But then it fails and we go through withdrawal, back to zero, actually less than zero. It keeps us selfish. It keeps us lost. Wow, do we have to avoid imitation love? Because it does feel good, taste good. And it's especially hard when the entire world is consuming it, when they're giving up their lives for it, when it's advertised everywhere, when it's depicted as the peak experience of life when you get enough imitation love. We fall for it, and then we're just screwed. We can learn to do different, which is, well, let me think what we're doing right now. Being aware of it is the first step. Being aware of imitation love, being aware of the cycle, being aware of being triggered, and then we can begin to do something about it. We don't have to feel guilty and change it all right this second. New subject. My son, Zach, is 16 and not doing so well. He doesn't get up for school on time. He's not sleeping in his bed. He sleeps on the sofa in the living room. He misses classes at school. At the end of the last quarter, he got F's in 3 courses, and he didn't care. I talked to him about it, and he just gives me a look like, and? Well, you got 3 F's in this term. And he's, no kidding. Who cares? You continue. I checked with school, and most days I find out now he doesn't even turn up. He tells me he's going to school. He doesn't go. And when he does, he goes to a couple of classes because they keep electronic records, of attendance. They have to. And he just leaves. I didn't know because he's been turning in excuses supposedly for me that he's forged. Clever kid. But he's not sick. He goes to 2 jobs. He stays up late spending money he's earned. And now he doesn't want to talk about it. I think he has a girlfriend, but I'm not sure. So he leaves school. He stays up late. He's spending money that he earns from a job. And you wonder if he has a girlfriend. Yeah, he does. Explains the late night and all that other stuff. And about not caring about grades. He is swimming in imitation love. And he's going, why would I disturb this? Why don't you just go away? I'm as happy as I've ever been. And probably feels like to him, he is as happy as he's ever been. Now he's just distracted, temporarily lovesick. And as far as not wanting to talk about him, easy. Or as far as him not wanting to talk to you about this, you tell him, too bad. Kind of like I said earlier to another parent, you're his mother, you're not his buddy. It's your job to love and teach him. Teach him what? how to tie knots. No. The course of life, capital L, that no kid gets taught. So they learn algebra and history, which they will never, ever use. And there's no school course called living, happy, nothing. And you haven't taught him up to this point, which is why he's so distracted by imitation love. No blaming. You just didn't know how. He wants to be his own parent because he enjoys skipping school. He enjoys the money. He enjoys the girl. And you make it easy for him because you give him a house and food and water and insurance and a car and everything else. And you're funding his skipping school and his having sex and the intoxication that goes with that. You're funding it. He's gotten such a big dose of imitation, which oddly we just got through talking about, I didn't plan that he cannot let go. He can't do it. You continue. I'm at a loss. He goes to work for both of his jobs just fine, but he misses school. The best he does is go to a couple of classes. He's going to fail. Here's where you be the mom. Remember, you're funding him so that he can go get the job so he can go play with his girlfriend. If he had no money at all, none, no jobs, nothing, you think he'd be doing the same stuff with his girlfriend? No, the intoxication level would go way down. So what do? He's a minor. And you can tell his boss at both places that he's quit. You can do that for him. Oh, say parents, I couldn't do that. Well, then you're dead. Then don't write me about what to do about your kid because your kid's already lost. But if you want to help your child learn life and responsibility and love and happiness, then what will you do? You'll have him quit his jobs. That's the first step. He's obviously not old enough to understand the consequences of his choices, in this case, school. You tell him. It's not a good thing if you do well in school. It's an essential thing. You have to do it. In fact, the law makes you do it. But if you don't do it, if you get grades like this, the alternative is your choices in the future are going to be limited down to a pencil point. You're going to have no choices. You're going to decide, I want to be a school teacher. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a brain surgeon. And because of the grades you're getting now in high school, all the doors will be shut. Have him call me. Actually, you already know. You already know people whose lives are just crushed by poverty because they played around at school. That's how it happened. That's where it started. You look at a 16-year-old kid who's just having fun and driving his car and having sex with his girlfriend, and you're going, oh, it's just so cute. They just look like they're having so much fun. They're headed off the cliff. Think Thelma and Louise. Really, for you people who aren't old enough, look it up. Look up the plot summary and the ending. He's headed off a cliff. And you're just standing by as his mother and going, oh, what do I do? No, that's not going to help. That's not going to stop the car from going off the cliff. When he's not living at home, he can screw up his life all he wishes. But right now he's a minor and he can't. He can't if you won't let him. He has to get good grades. It's the law of your family. He will do things on time. You tell the school, you never, ever accept an excuse for non-attendance from this kid unless I've called you. There. He can write all the fake, forged excuses he wants to, but you instruct them not to accept them. He has to have it two ways, written and by phone from you. And you must absolutely never, ever show pain, fear, or concern around him. And that's going to take you getting some love. Because if you look like you're concerned, the kid owns you. All he's going to do is keep doing things that make you concerned and back so that you'll back off. You be lighthearted and loving. Almost just like, it's really odd how in every video chat these questions interact. Just like the mother who has the daughter who says, you're violating my personal space. Tough. Well, I don't want to be told I have to get better grades. Oh, hang on just a sec. Let me cry. Okay, I'm done crying. You have to. Or then we start doing consequences, just gradually, but lovingly and calmly. So I'm going to shut off your phone, from the provider. So now you got no phone and you have no car, because I'll take some of the electronics out of the engine so you can't run the car. We'll put alarms on I've been through all this. These aren't hypothetical. We'll put alarms on all the windows and the doors of the house so that they go off if he sneaks off at night. We will know that you're in class. We'll know what your grades are, because now they're submitted almost weekly online. You can look them up. Welcome to the course of life, kid, because I can teach you, or they can teach you in prison. I wish I were exaggerating, but that's where guys tend to end up. I'll just do it my way. The prison guards tend not to have a sense of humor about that. So if he thinks life is hard with you, you do tell him, if I don't teach you, life will be harder than you can even imagine. And you tell him that until he goes to his classes and brings his grades up, there's no jobs, no money, no privileges, nothing, all with a serene smile. He'll hate it. He will. A lot. He will test you. He will sneak out and the alarm will go off. He will try to start the car even though you've removed some of the electronics. You can get some guy friend to show you how to do that. But this is your last chance before he's 16. He's almost gone. And then he's going to find out the hard way. Life doesn't teach you with love. Life teaches you solely with consequences. And they're brutal. So he'll end up being a father of a kid with a woman who turns out not to be what he thought. That turns out that there's more to a relationship than having great sex with a cute little teenage kid. And he'll have no prospects at all. And he'll be hating his life and still blaming everybody else but himself. And you'll have helped him do it. You'll have funded it. No kidding. You'll have funded his failure. Who wants to do that? You're kind of behind the curve at this point at age 16, but you can catch up. Don't quit. It's worth it. That was heavy. Because I've done this with a lot of kids. New subject. This is from a father. I didn't mean to do this, but 2 kid stories in a row. Who's been practicing real love with considerable dedication for several years. And that's just really impressive to see. He has a 4-year-old daughter named Anna. And he writes, Anna doesn't always listen and is sometimes deliberately disobedient. I'm shocked. At age 4, no kidding. It kind of goes with the age, but it also goes with not being sufficiently taught and loved. Without really consistent as in close to 100%. If one negative experience is more powerful than 100 positive ones, I wish I were exaggerating about that. They actually studied this relative to customers. One customer with a negative experience with your store, your online product, your whatever, has 17 times the effect of a very happy one. Losing feels worse than winning feels good. We have to be consistent. We just can't fail to love and teach these kids. Like the mother earlier with the 16-year-old kid. Life's going to start over for this kid, or she's going to lose him. Consistent, preferably from birth, but you start from where you got. Some people say that children are testing their boundaries. Oh, that's so unnecessarily complicated. It's psychobabble and psycho-foolishness. And almost accuse the child of being devious. Notice you said something about intentionally difficult. What was it? Deliberately disobedient. Too complicated. They're just exploring the world around them. Hello? It's a playground. And they discover that if they, whatever, at age usually 2, but they take a crayon and write all over the wall, that they feel creative and powerful, and wow, it becomes their wall. They're just exploring. They're looking for things that are fun. What can I do? They're thinking. How will it feel? Watch a 2-year-old. They do it all the time. If I push over this piece of furniture, what will it do? And if it breaks, all the better. Or they just see and do something because, well, it's fun. You continue. Yesterday, she asked if she could play her loud, unsettling music. She plays this loud, crazy, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. She could be playing Beethoven's Fifth. It doesn't matter. It's just loud and unsettling. And her mother and I both said she couldn't play it loud and disturbing. And yet, she just went ahead and did it anyway. Well, of course she would, because you've been inconsistent about loving and teaching her in the past. So it's a crapshoot. It's like going to Vegas. Yeah, sure, I'll try it. So what do? Love and teach again. It's hoped that previous to this, you have taught her why it's important to pay attention to the needs of others. But maybe you haven't. If you have, you stop everything immediately. That's if she has some preparation about you telling her that it's important to be considerate. Surely you have. You stop everything immediately. Within 2 seconds of her playing loud, disturbing music in the company of other people, you turn off the music, not to force her, but so she can hear you. That's all. You're not manhandling her, not to correct her, and you just say, what are you doing? Notice, it's a question. If you tell the child you're being disturbing again and nag her, you're doing all the work, and she's not going to hear it. If you ask her what she's doing and make her answer, she'll remember it much better. You keep asking her questions, leading questions, who cares, until she identifies that she is being, and she knows the answers to these questions. They'll say, I don't know. They do know. So you keep asking questions until she identifies that she's being disobedient and not considering the needs and desires of other people. When she plays her music, everybody's affected, and you don't get to make choices that affect other people without talking to them. This can be prevented in just a couple of ways I can think of. Easily, I'm just going to give you 2 just as options, and not telling you to do either one. She can use headphones or earbuds, and it wouldn't be loud and distracting to you, and she'd still hear her music. It's so easy. Or you can tell her when she can play her music, up in her room by herself. See, you're not stopping her enjoyment. Every child understands when and where. They do. We don't evacuate our bowels in the living room. Every kid knows this. Every kid. We use a toilet for that. We don't play our music, loud music, when other people are around because it disturbs them. They know this. She wouldn't play loud music in school. She wouldn't play loud music in church. Every kid understands when and where, and that's what you're teaching her. What if you've not taught her so much about being considerate? Then start now. And you have to teach it every time she's disobedient or inconsiderate. Teach a given principle 4 to 5 times, and then you'll require that she tell you what she's doing. I stated already. When a child says, oh, I wasn't paying attention to anybody but myself, or I just chose to be disobedient, it's far more memorable than if you just keep repeating it, which is doing the work. It's nagging. Nagging is stupid. If you find yourself nagging, then you're the fool. What if she turns the music on again after you've taught her? Or she's had enough times before that you know teaching her isn't working. See, you love and teach, you love and teach, you love and teach. You'll figure out how many times. And the child keeps doing it. Well, the child's having fun and also enjoying a little power struggle with you. Then you use consequences after they've learned it enough. And that doesn't mean they violate the rules 5 times every time and then you do consequences. No, once they understand it, you just teach them with consequences. This time, and then the next time, they still understand it. So you just start with consequences because you've already done loving and teaching. See? Because I know parents who say, I told him not to do it, and then I explained it again. I said, have you explained that before? Oh, yeah, 100 times. Well, then you're foolish. I was going to say stupid. That's more accurate. They get it. They're not stupid. Twice, maybe. You teach a child a thing. They've got it. If you taught a child how to sneak into a secret cabinet in the refrigerator to find ice cream, how many times would you have to teach them? Getting it now? Once. Well, you only need to teach them once or twice about not playing loud music around other people. And the consequences have to be 3 things. Immediate. You don't wait. Well, I'll take your phone from you tomorrow. No, right now. They have to be given with no emotion whatever. Although sometimes I suggest a mild amusement. Children really hate it. My children actually told me, you just make us crazy when you do this. When you give us a consequence, and you not only are not angry, but you're mildly amused that we'd be this stupid to choose the consequence again. Because now we can't fight you. Because you're not angry. So it looks like this. Well, you just hold your hand out. Now, she's 4. She wouldn't have one. Every kid is trained with one experience to know that this means give me your cell phone. And you just go, okay. I thought you would have preferred to have it, the phone, but apparently not. What are they going to fight against? You're teaching them that they chose the consequence. And you don't have to tell them the consequence ahead of time. If you have to do that, they become little lawyers and fight you about, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that. Third thing, the consequence has to be something she hates. Hates, just the most. Examples, she plays music. She loses her music playing device for whatever. She's 4. So 30 minutes, really, not 4 years. Okay, I'm going to take this from, because some parents do this. I'm going to take your music device from you for a week. At age 4, that's forever. After repeated violations from a teenager, that is appropriate, but not at age 4. And you tell her, if you're going to fuss, if you give me any attitude when I give you the consequence, then I'll double the consequence. It was going to be 30 minutes, but now it's going to be 60. Do you want to keep going? Because I can play this game on and on. And if you keep going, I'll give your music device to, I don't know, your aunt, somebody. You show nothing but mild amusement. You continue. This morning I had to tell her 3 times to get dressed and then 3 times to brush her teeth. She's trained you to do this, to nag her. She kind of enjoys it. You never remind a child past, say, age 3, never, to brush their teeth and get dressed. They already know the principle because you've nagged them so many times. You simply tell them, teach them to tell time with a clock or a timer or whatever. There are devices that 4-year-olds understand, and tell them when a task must be done by, like getting dressed. Say, it has to be done by this time. If it's not, you pick out a dress or whatever that you know she hates, and you simply put it on over her pajamas, and then you leave. You go to school. Many parents have done this. And the first time that a child goes to school with a dress that is hideous over their pajamas, Their schoolmates are only too glad to teach them that that was a stupid choice. And they will listen to their schoolmates, or they may not listen to you. Teeth, you don't remind them to brush their teeth. If it's not done on, you brush their teeth if it's not done by a certain time, with their least favorite toothpaste, and whatever. Something that they won't like. A toothbrush that they hate, without obviously, not a Brillo pad, steel wool. There's no torture or bleeding here. Remember, this is mildly amusing. It's not punishing. And it's pretty darned important. You continue. Second email. This morning I left the house at 8 o'clock. This is the same father talking about nagging, which was what I've always said, but not taught them. They were getting their breakfast out at 7:59. And I said, oh, well, it's too late for that. You had to have your breakfast done by, 7:45, whatever. We drove to school, no breakfast. Anna had a meltdown, and her older sister said nothing, but they both understood that they had taken too long. I told them they had an hour and 15 minutes to get ready. Hello, you can get ready for a formal ball in an hour and 15 minutes. It was their choice to be late and not have breakfast. Let's see what they do in the morning. Maybe I'll brush her teeth with adult toothpaste, which she hates, but whatever. Third email this morning. The morning after the morning where they missed breakfast. I woke Anna up at 7:50. She had 10 minutes before she had to be out the door. She had the responsibility to get herself up. And I left her in her room. Without asking, she got fully dressed, washed, and had her teeth brushed by 7:58. That's 8 minutes. See, they can do it when they know they have to, when they know there are consequences. As opposed to an hour and 15 minutes, she had 8. She came into my room without a fuss, showed me that she was dressed, washed, opened her mouth for me to check her teeth, all because she missed breakfast the day before. One simple consequence. And no, I don't think there's a recorded incident of a child dying because they missed breakfast. Pretty sure. The father says this is the quickest she's ever gotten ready. I'll bet. Remember, your job as a parent is to help them grow up, not to be taken care of all their lives. I know 30-year-old people who are not as responsible as Anna already is. Nice work. This father, for all of you who are listening, this isn't about raising a 4-year-old. This is about being consistently responsible, consistently loving and teaching. In the work, parenting and supervising people in the workplace are so similar that I tell people in the workplace, go read the parenting book. This man experienced the results of a question we ask all the time. What would happen if I brought more love into this situation and sometimes more teaching? He's changed his 4-year-old daughter's life for the rest of her life. So can we. We'll see you in a week.